Porky's Corner is proud to be sponsored by Spartan Site Solutions. They are specialists in civil engineering and demolition contracts for the construction industry. Interested parties should visit their website or contact Porky's Corner for a referral at porkycorner@mail.com. Hello all you hardcore boxing fans out there, how are you doing? It's Russ here from Porky's Corner, the biggest gob in sport. Today I'm joined by Julian, who should be logging on any second now. Here we are. How you doing, Julian? You all right, mate?
I'm all right, mate. We got there.
Must be
a dodgy link, that, mate.
Yeah, well, when we've done this one, I'll send you another one. How are you?
I'm all right, mate. I'm all right. Busy old day. Just been over to my girlfriend's tonight. Not stayed tonight. She's got to be up early in the morning. I've got my lads here. Had a nice bit of salmon pasty. I'm all right. We're just back into routine, aren't we? Christmas is done. New Year's here, and just crack on.
Yeah. I like your t-shirt. Where you get that from?
Oh, it's Bell stuff. I don't know. I might have bought it online actually. It's like everything now. You buy a lot of stuff online, don't you? You know me. I like my Bell stuff. I like my Stone Island. I like my Boss. And if I like a t-shirt, I get about 4 colours at the same one.
Yeah, it's a nice t-shirt. That you always do that, don't you? If you like one, you get a couple saying, mate, don't you?
Like if I buy a pair of boots or something, I just think, well, I'll get a black pair. I'll get I'll get a brown pair. It's like you like what you like, don't you, mate?
I was like that when I was fat. If I saw Rice Krispie Squares in sale, I'd just buy all of them.
Oh yeah, Rice Krispie Squares. My lads like them.
Do they?
The orange chocolate ones especially.
Your lads, Big K.
Big K and Joe, they just go through them like you wouldn't believe that they don't exist.
Do they?
They like the chocolate, mate. They're sweet. They've got a sweet tooth, but so have I. But the problem is, as you get older, you have to train 3 times as hard, don't you, just to maintain your weight. Never mind losing weight.
Yeah, it's I've noticed that recently. But listen, I took that stone off in a week, didn't I? Nearly killed me.
You did. You said you'd do it though, didn't you?
Oh God, yeah, but it was harder. We had the fluid in the band. It was hard as out, honestly. I thought I'm gonna have to do this because my mate says to me, "Yeah, it's easy for your weird band." I say, "It's not that easy." He said, "Well, we'll wait and see if after Christmas now you've got no fluid in your band." Anyway, God, after about 3 days, I felt a bit flat. Do you know what I mean?
It's hard, isn't it? I've go up and down with my weight, but I've just got to the stage now. I thought I train all the time. I always train. I'm gonna have a good Christmas. Lads go back to the mums. I say my lads, I've got daughters and boys, but as we know, my girls are at uni, etc. But the boys are going back to the mums tomorrow, and there's nothing in the cupboards whatsoever. There's just a few eggs and a bit of brown bread and a bit of, pretty good food basically. So if I stay away from shops and stay away from supermarkets, I'll be back on a clean one this week.
I remember having a meeting with that dietitian before they took all them Reddies off me. And he asked me for a photo of what were in my fridge. I showed him it. And he goes, "Oh, you shouldn't have that and you shouldn't have that." And I goes, "There's no tin in that fridge." And he says, "Let me tell you this. You can go in a fridge or a cupboard. You can find a slice of bread at bottom of the bag and a crust. You can throw them in a toaster. You can get a tin of tomatoes, put half a tin on one toast and half a tin on other. There's your 2 breakfasts for 2 days." He says, we overeat as humans. So I went back to that small portion because I thought, I'm going to struggle here without this band. Anyway, I pissed it. And I think it's because I know a bit about food and what to put in my mouth now and what not. Because when you're putting something wrong in your mouth, when you go out on piss, you had 4 pints, you're thinking, this is wrong, this. And then you're kebabbing it. You know what I mean?
Well, I've got 2 lives. I've had the life as a boxing coach. So the mistake that people use is they always look at the diet of an athlete, not realizing that's the diet that an athlete takes during season, or for in a boxer's case, a diet designed at a temporary weight loss. It's never a sustainable diet. And then I have a diet, or I don't call it a diet actually. I have a lifestyle of just a regular person. And I think that's the best way to do it. Everybody's got their own way of doing it. You know how to lose weight. I know how to lose weight. I know how to put it on. We all
Like
know how to put it
graft.
on.
You
And
got to put some graft in.
it's like a seesaw thing though, is losing weight. Because obviously as you get older, your metabolism slows down, your body becomes a little bit denser, you lack the agility you have when you're younger, so it's harder to burn those calories, etc. So like I say, it's like a seesaw. So my lad, for example, Joe, he's doing MMA, he's training 5 times a week. He's 15-year-old and there's more fat on a chip. He's absolutely
There's no
shredded.
telling him he's wiry, innit, Joe?
Nothing on him at all, but he's shredded. His testosterone's climbing. He's hyper, and basically can eat much crap as he wants. He's just had a
Burns
Domino's,
it all off, doesn't he?
burns it off. And I was similar. And then the older you get, you've got to do more exercise and diet harder, and then it's that seesaw thing. So people will always say it's 90% diet, 10% activity, but it's not real. That's really not the case. It's a case of it's diet or lifestyle, whatever you want to call it, prefer to call it lifestyle. Lifestyle's part of it, exercise is part of it, but it's different for everybody. Some people, certain foods agree with them, some people they don't. And like when I was training fighters, for example, you had a high carbohydrate day, fast acting carbs on other days, alternate days, slow releasing carbs, etc. It's about you learn that side of it. But as humans, as regular people, you and I are regular people, we're civilians, we're not professional fighters. Then as you get older, yeah, you have to train hard, but you have to train sensibly. You have to do what works for you. But in terms of food, you've just got to find what works for you. There are certain things that like are just bad for everybody, but there are certain things that your metabolism and your actual body digest slightly different to other people. And I know there are some things that are bad for me and some things that are good for me. So I just try to, what I try to do, Russell, is I try to do a 5-2. So I live clean Monday to Friday as a rule. When I say clean, no treats, don't snack, healthy breakfast, small lunch, regular sized dinner. And I do that 5 times a week. And then I cheat on Friday night. And then I cheat on Saturday and I cheat half a Sunday. So it's like a 4.5, 2.5. And that tends to be how it works for me. I'm heavier than I was naturally when I was 21, my last amateur fight. I'm about a stone and a half heavier than that. But I'm also a bit bigger because I do more weight training and stuff like that. And I'm a little bit skinnier then. But it purely is what works for you. And people always say, what do boxers eat? We always make the mistake, me, you, everybody in boxing, what do boxers eat? And I always say the same thing. A boxer's diet is split into two parts. There's the front part of the camp where they need fuel, they need high carbohydrates, they need energy. That's the first part of it, yeah, to get them working. And then the second part of it, generally that's a smaller half. They need less high energy foods, more cleaner foods, slightly smaller portions broken up, and less carbohydrates on non-activity days. And it's just a case of that. But I guess what I'm saying is that works for an athlete who has to weigh a certain thing. But you want to walk around at the same weight pretty much every day, don't you?
Yeah. So, I do
so
now.
You have to be sensible, put it on, you have to drop it quickly or else it'll stay with you.
Yeah, thing is with me, you see, I remember I've been this weight a few times in past, 160, 165 pound and that, and many times when I've come out at Nick and that, and I know how easy it is to let your thing go. I'm not willing to go through that now, and we all expense what it is with clothes and this and that and operations. I'm not willing to go through all that and put my family through all that nonsense.
No.
So I just stay disciplined. I'm like you, have a bit of a binge on a weekend, but at Christmas you tend to have it's like a 10-day binge, isn't it?
Oh, it's disgusting. I've been disgusting this Christmas.
So you know what? I was disgusted with myself.
Me too. But that's not how I live my life. It's not how you live my life. And I'll tell you what, there were two tests when I know I'm too heavy. I train at the gym called Mad in Batley. It's like a private gym. It's an old school gym. And there's 42 stairs. Max will tell you about these stairs. Effectively, it's 2 levels of stairs, 4 corners. And I time everything. I'm quite regimented in my life. So I've got the Mad stairs. and I run up and down them twice, 42 steps times 4, and I do that in about 57 seconds, 58 seconds, and then I have a 30-second recovery. And when I know I'm a little bit too heavy is when I've done 5 or 6 minutes, times 1 30-second rest of the mad stairs. And I like that. When I get to 5th and 6th minute and I'm absolutely blowing and I'm hurting, I know I'm just a little bit too heavy. So that's the first test because I measure everything that I do, as you can imagine, can't you? And then the second test is when I go on the bag twice a week, not as much as I used to, and I do 10 to 12 1-minute rounds. And it's the same thing. And I can tell if I'm too heavy when I'm blowing after 4 or 5 rounds. Nothing crazy, nothing huge effort. But the stairs and the bag always tell me if I'm too heavy. When I'm doing the weights, or when I'm doing certain exercises with the resistance stuff, that don't really tell me if I'm too heavy, because you sometimes feel stronger, don't you, when you're a little bit heavier. But when I'm struggling up the stairs and when I'm a bit flat-footed on the bag and I'm blowing hard, I'm like, Jules, you fat disgrace. You need to get fit. You need to lose some weight. And I just drop half a stone that week.
Terry spurred me on though this morning because when I was coming to end at halfway, because I tried that 10 kilometre, and I don't believe that time John Fury says he ran 10 kilometres, and I don't, because I did it today and I quit halfway. I thought, if I get to halfway, I won't rest. I was shattered. I'm normally a 3 kilometre man before I start blowing, but I was hanging on and hanging on. Now looking at my time, and I thought, oh God, I'm about 9 minutes slower than Eddie Hills of a 5 kilometre. So I thought, no chance of a 10 kilometre. Then I was looking online when I got home for that time that John Fury were on about. And he were like, I don't know, 15, 16 minutes faster than me. The man's like Superman.
He will, first of all, he's huge, but second of all, whether he can do it in that time or not, I've got no idea. But it's like anything, isn't it? There are ways to approach things. And to get to 10 kilometers, it's like anything. It's like when you're a pro fighter, you don't jump from 4 rounds to 10. So you just said I generally do 3K and then I try to do 10K. I'd say that's a quantum leap. That's too much for you.
Yeah.
You start a 4 rounder as a pro. And if you breeze through that 4 rounder at a hard pace, after a couple of them, you're ready for a 6 rounder. Generally, GB kids go straight to the 6 rounders because they're the different level. They've done the World Series boxing, etc., and all that kind of stuff. But I guess what I'm saying is to go from a 3 or a 4K, which is what you do, to go to a 10K, it's not going to work, is it? It's
I'm
like
on a 3K. It's actually where I go. It's 4.4, but I had to go and measure it in car to get 6.2 miles because on the internet that's equivalent to 10 kilometers. So when I got to half of it, I was like, fucking hell, I don't think I'll be able to do this. And then obviously I checked their times and I thought Eddie's quite fit to run that time. He's quite a fit bloke, Eddie Hills.
He'd be a fit bloke. He's long limbed. He's got that kind of athletic build. Now he's dropped some weight. He looks quite athletic, and it doesn't surprise me. You've also got to realise it's like this is the bit what's going to
Got
sting
no
you.
flexes in everyday life, has he?
What's going to sting you a little bit. I'm always honest about this stuff. Is like if you look online and you look, say, for example, everything's averages, isn't it? But what's the average amount of press ups a man can do? It never says what's the average amount of press ups a man can do. It'll say what's the average amount of press ups a man can do aged 18 to 22 and then 22 to 30. So Eddie, unfortunately, Russell's in a different age category to you, isn't he? And to I. I'm 53 next. So you can't, I'm 53 next. I can't do what I could do when I was 42. When I was 32, I couldn't do what I could do when I was 22. And it's as simple as that. And it's like, we're all getting older. Things become harder. I'm riddled with arthritis, but compared to your average 52-year-old, I'd say I'm probably in the top 10% fitness-wise and press-ups, pull-ups wise. I'm on about your average people. I'm not about bloody, fitness gurus, cross sports. But I'd say I reckon I'm in the top 5% in terms of those exercises, definitely.
Yeah. Which brings me on to somebody who's not keen on exercise. The White Rhino, Big Ron's in talks to try and get him in with Romford Bull because he's still got 2 fights left on his Big Ron deal, hasn't he? They're saying Romford Bull and then Nathan Gorman for White Rhino.
Well, I don't want to see him fight Nathan Gorman, and I'm not being disrespectful to Nathan Gorman or Dave Allen. Both achieved a hell of a lot more in boxing than I have. But I don't want to see two uncommitted, non-dedicated guys waddling around. And that sounds really, really harsh. Dave Gorman always comes across as an absolute lovely guy.
Nathan Coleman, isn't it?
His last fight was embarrassing.
Nathan, his name, not Dave.
Nathan Gorman. His last fight was embarrassing.
Well, Dave Allen's not much better, was it?
But I'm talking about Dave wasn't in shape, but Nathan Gorman, it was huge. It was absolutely huge last time, and he got beat, didn't he, by the awkward guy who nothing special, and he got well beat. And I just thought it's the same question for Gorman and the same question for Dave Allen is, where are you going with this one? And you got to be honest with yourself. Am I just after a few quid? Am I waiting for the phone to ring for a big opportunity? And do I really want to do this? And as I watch Nathan Gorman, I always see a look of somebody who just doesn't want to be in that ring. And Dave Allen's last fight against Big Fraze, he definitely didn't want to be in that ring. There was no doubt about that.
You think Dave would just be coming back to paydays now, then?
Absolutely. I don't think there's any doubt about it. I mean, I thought the fight with Fraser Clark was, I thought he'd get well beat, you know that, but I'm trying to remember exactly what happened because it was a completely forgettable fight. I think he threw about 3 big overhand rights in that fight that missed by about 18 inches. And he didn't get it. Yeah. Say that again, Russell.
Is that a lot in missing?
No.
Oh, yeah.
I won't want to miss any. Yeah. It was missing. There was
the crowd, in it, that.
There was the Bob Willis bowling, weren't there? Those right hands were completely amateurish, and but for me, he was just looking for a way out, and he was desperately trying to get Fraser Clark disqualified for some of those low blows. And I think ultimately that's why the referee didn't throw Fraser Clark out, because a couple of those were low, by the way. But I think from memory, and I'm going from memory because I've watched that fight once and I don't ever want to watch it again. But from memory, the referee almost looked really frustrated at Dave Allen's lack of effort. And he was also frustrated at Fraser Clark repeatedly going low. And he almost technically could have disqualified him, but you could see he didn't want to disqualify him because I'm not going to give a win to a guy who just wants to win by disqualification, because Dave Allen never really gritted his teeth and made any attempt to win that fight. But what I will say is one more thing. I'm not crucifying Dave Allen. It sounds like I am, but I'm not, right? Because I like Dennis Hobson. It's irrelevant. None of it's relevant. What's relevant is if you ask me a question about a fighter, and that includes someone I know personally, you know me long enough now, Russell, I'll give you an honest answer.
Yeah.
I'll always give you an honest answer. Now, I never really rated Dave Allen, if I'm being completely honest. Technically, I think he's not great. I think he's a tough lad. But I'll tell you something. You don't try to win a fight when the first bell goes. You try and win a fight 2-3 years before that fight even happens by your approach to your career. And I say this time and time again. It's like people keep talking about Tyson Fury. And by the way, I'm not making a prediction for Fury and Usyk. But all I hear about Tyson Fury is he'll switch on. He's going to switch on now for 8 weeks. And he'll blast Usyk out of there. And it's like, you don't suddenly switch on for 8 weeks. You're committed or you're not. Now, Dave Allen has fought 4 times in the last 4 years against bin men. That's a statement of fact, okay? Dire low level of opposition. Now, what have you been doing for the other 11 months of the year for those 4 years, right? Now, you don't suddenly get offered a fight against a Fraser Clark and say, right, I'm going to do a bit of work with Jamie Moore, I'm going to graft, and then wonder after 3 rounds, 2 rounds, why you're absolutely blowing out your ass. You're blowing out your ass because you've not ever really been a committed fighter. Do you see where I'm going with this?
Yeah. It's not about that 8-week camp, is it? It's about
nothing to do with that. Professional boxing is not something you switch on and switch off. It doesn't happen. You got to continually work at it from being a junior all the way through the amateurs, from being professional. You don't suddenly decide, I'm going to be committed now. Do you know what? I'm going to have 12 months. I'm going to give it everything I've got. Guess what? It's too late. It's done. It's too late. And that's how I feel about certain boxers. And that's how I feel about Dave Allen. You've missed the boat. The party's gone. You can train as hard as you want now. Right? It ain't going to be there when you want it, when you need it. Because you have to respect your body. You have to respect, more importantly, the sport of boxing.
Yeah.
And if you don't respect the sport of boxing, you always got to remember. I always used to say this to my fighters. I know it's a cliche, right? I used to text them and say, "What are you doing?" You know, if it was a rest day or something like that. "What are you doing?" "Oh, I'm just chilling, Jules. I'm just chilling." And be like, "All right, that's interesting." Because you know that kid, same weight as you, wants to be British champion. He's out running now. He's on the bag in the gym now. He's doing a spin class. He's out doing his road running class. He's out doing this. He's out doing that. And you know what? I go on about forever about dedication and commitment, because you know me, even as a coach, and how I live my life. Everything I do, I give 100%. It's as simple as that, right? It's no secret that the best fighter of the last 40 years, 30 years is Floyd Mayweather. Not just because he's a damn talented fighter and a damn smart fighter. Nobody worked harder than Floyd Mayweather. Nobody. And
Why?
I just say that
Sorry.
again, Russell.
You think you're going to finish off on Floyd, and I'm going to tell you why he works so hard.
But yeah, I read Claude Abrams when he went to visit a training camp. So it was a camp of Floyd Mayweather. He went to see him train, and he says it wasn't even like in the main part of his training for one of his world title fights. And his commitment, his dedication is ridiculous. Now, what I'm basically saying with this, right, is if I look at a fighter, and you know I was really down on Gerald Miller, don't you? I says, Dubois is going to smash him to bits. Dubois will beat him. I was really down on Gerald Miller, right? When I look at a fighter and he gets in the ring and he's 20 odd stone, whether that's Gerald Miller, Martin Bakole, Nathan Gorman, Dave Allen, whoever. When I look at a fighter who is a professional fighter, that's his living. Yeah, he's stripped down just to his shorts and his boots and his gloves. That's all he's exposing himself to the world, to the paying public. And I look at a guy getting a ring like that. There's two things I think. One, you can't do a hard 10 rounds. You cannot do a hard 10 rounds. And then the second thing I think is whatever you're getting paid, it's too much because you don't deserve it. And that's harsh, but that's me.
Yeah, I once spoke to McCracken about Floyd Mayweather when he was training out at the top rank gym when he were coming to the end of his career. I think he might have been training for Keith Holmes because he fought for WBC middleweight title, didn't he, in America?
He did.
And so it might have been that fight, but he was training in this Bob Arum's gym, and Floyd Mayweather, he wasn't one of them like conventional fighters that gets up and does a 6 o'clock run, you know, like Clinton and Froch and that. He used to swan him when he wanted, but mainly in the afternoon, late afternoon, he'd come in and he'd just do 2 solid hours non-stop and then go. But he'd do his run at early hours, you know, sometimes 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. He were really odd, but as long as he got it in, his run and his sessions, they weren't really bothered, his camp and that. And he never missed a session. McCracken said he would go full pelt into everything. He wouldn't talk and that, and he wouldn't have teams of people around him like he has done years ago, you know, when he went on his own with the money team and that. Because I don't think Arum and Top Rank and that, I don't think they let groups of people go in there, you know. It's a pretty serious gym, like, but he ended up doing his sessions and proper hard work and dedication, but he used to go full pelt. None of that free, breaks and all that. Just go full pelt for 2 hours. That's so phenomenal. And he said he was a phenomenal fighter then. He said you just stand and watch, you'd be like, wow.
Claude Abraham said the same thing when he went to watch him train. He says, I was watching a guy who was basically, he'd do the pads for 40 minutes, and the only time he'd stop would be to sprint over to one of the coaches to take a quick swig and get straight back on the pads or the bag on, no matter what he was doing. As you just said, he grafted and he worked hard. So it sounds like I'm being hard on the overweight heavyweights, right? But you think about this, right? The word professional, what professional means, okay? You get paid to do a job to the best of your ability.
Yeah.
So if I have someone coming to my house tomorrow, and we all have tradesmen come to our houses to do jobs, and I have a guy who's coming at 9 o'clock till 10 o'clock, is a plumber, and he's charging me, and I've had this before, he's charging me 50 quid an hour.
Yeah.
And he's supposed to come at 9 o'clock. I planned on that. You know what I'm like for time.
Mm.
And he turns up at 25 past 9. First thing he ain't got. I had this, by the way, with some guy delivering a sofa about six,
First
9
thing
months
you
ago.
have is a cuppa.
Time to get out. Time to get out. He had an issue with two guys delivering a sofa who didn't even have a drill to fit it. They asked me if I got a drill. But what I'm saying is, a guy comes, he's doing a job, he ain't got the right tools, he's late. Spent 10 minutes on his phone to his mate, and he nips outside, he's having a fag. Comes back in, does a bodge, doesn't do the job right, makes excuses, blames this, blames that, goes back at 10 to 10. He's probably done about 15 minutes work in that hour, and he invoices me 50 quid. No. Sorry, mate. You haven't fixed it. Simple as that. And you've just done bugger all. So, like I say, I had some issues with some sofas being delivered. I'm not a dickhead. I'm not an ass, but it's called being professional. But for some reason, yeah, I'll give you an example. Again, I'm being hard, but like Dave Allen, whatever Dave Allen got, I don't know what he got for fighting Fraser Clark. So let's just say he got, I'm going to make a number up. I'm going to say 60 grand, yeah?
Yeah.
Might be north of that, might be south of that, but no idea. And I'm not going in on you, Dave. I'm just using an example because Russell's asked me about you. You got 60 grand. What do you expect for 60 grand's worth of pay on that performance? As a viewer, as me, who pays 25 quid a month, Sky Sports, do you think I'm entitled to 100% effort from that guy getting paid 60 grand?
Of course you are, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, my expectation as a subscriber of Sky, which I am, and BT, and DAZN, wherever, my expectation is you get in shape. You show up in that ring looking like an athlete. By the way, that'll significantly reduce the chance of you getting injured or hurt, by the way. Okay. The boxing green book says you've got to be fit to fight.
Yeah.
It's your job to keep fit. It's your job to get in shape. And if you're getting paid 60 grand, 70 grand, you better be in shape.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're cheating the public. So what do we turn around when a fighter gets in the ring that size? Do we say, I'm going to give you 20 grand, 10 grand? I'm not going to pay you. You haven't done your job. You've not turned up in shape. You've put no resistance up whatsoever. And you've blown out your ass and you bailed out after 6 rounds. And we're still going to pay you 60 grand. Do you see how I get passionate about this stuff? Do you see how wrong that is, Russell?
Terrible.
Why do we accept it from professional fighters?
Because there aren't that many heads out there. Dave's obviously put people want to see him fight, don't they? On Sky, he's got a bit of a name, kind of thing. But you were going on about you want fighters to give their best, and if they're not fit or ready, you don't really want to be part of that. I understand that. Is that why you walked away from Gary Sykes fighting Luke Campbell?
Yeah, Gary was at the end of his career. I had a very hard conversation with him. He won't mind me saying this because Gary and I are really close. We chat all the time. We had a good hour actually. We chat about a week and a half ago. We had a good chat over Christmas. Good to catch up with the kid. But I have certain expectations of fighters, right? One here, and this was the reason I don't coach anymore, if I'm being completely honest. That's one of 20 reasons, but it's a big reason. Yeah. And what I found myself, and this is aimed at quite a few fighters, by the way. And before anybody says anything, I never really did much with Max Jenkins, but Max was always on time, and Max came from Scarborough. So if that kid can do our 4-hour round trip and turn up on time, when I've got fighters who are literally 10 minutes up the road who can't turn up on time, you start to say, especially when you've been working all day and you've got 4 kids at home, you say, what am I doing here? And this is what happens. And I've heard every single excuse from boxers. I've heard them all, every single one. And I don't believe a word boxers say to me. I've heard them all. And Sykes and others that were no different to anybody else. But ultimately, the trainer's always the one who gets the blame, but the fighter's the one who's taking the shots. I understand that. But I've heard them all. And when you're not putting the work in, it's one thing that you slightly past your best and you're not the fighter you was, but you also have to ask the question why you got someone who's 31, 32 who's past the best, haven't you?
Yeah.
Ricky Hatton was exactly the same, wasn't he? He was got to 32, 33. He was shot, wasn't he? He was just past it. And why is a guy at that age past his best? But yet we've got other fighters like an Alexander Usyk who's 36 years old. He looks magnificent, doesn't he?
Yeah, he's people are saying Ring Magazine guys, boxing news guys, there's other people in the industry, they're tipping him to somebody said it's an upset to beat Fury in an upset. How would that be an upset? I'd say Fury beating him's the upset, considering the careers, wouldn't you, from day one to now?
I think it's a 51-49 fight in favour of Fury. That's just my opinion. I haven't changed massively since the Ngannou fight. But Usyk, let's not beat about the bush. Usyk's a greater fighter. History will prove that. You know, you look at the accomplishments across. Obviously, it was Tyson couldn't be a cruiserweight naturally, but this is a guy who was undisputed at cruiserweight. This was a guy who had probably one of the best amateur records of all time, and someone who's constantly giving. I mean, we don't want to see heavyweights that big, but can you imagine? This is mythical. Before anybody laughs at me, right?
Yeah.
This is a real close fight. Is Fury and Usyk. Now,
Yeah.
can you imagine Tyson Fury fighting somebody who's 7'4" and 25 stone, who's got the
That's
ability
the
of Fury?
difference, isn't it, in weight and
Yeah,
height?
that's the difference. Now, can you imagine Fury beating a much bigger version of an Usyk, for example? You know, if Usyk was 7'4", 7'5", 23, 24 stone, how would that fight go?
Yeah.
It'd be a massacre, wouldn't it? It'd be a massacre. So what I'm saying is, it just shows who's the greater fighter of the two. I don't think there's any debate. I think what the question is who's the best heavyweight of the two.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it's like a David and Goliath fight, but I'm Team Usyk on this, me, because how he's conducted himself throughout his career, and how he just shrugs things off and goes about his business. I can buy into him. He's one of them guys that you could say, do you know what? He's all right. You could have a pint with him down pub kind of thing. He's what you could imagine him going out with his mates and somebody whacking one of his mates and him backing his friends up. That type of guy, you know, a stand-on man. Like he
I
went to
like him.
he went to that front line, didn't he? We were there 2-3 weeks or something like that. And they were living in basically it were like wet clay, wasn't it? He never shrugged it out, did he, or
It's
complained.
funny though, isn't it? If you listen to the haters or the Fury fanatics, they'll say, Usyk were never in the war. He never near the front line.
And they're
He
three
was
and a
like,
half week. It's all online if you go look.
but you can't convince them, mate. You just have to let them think whatever they want, can't you? But yeah, he's a man's man.
There were
Is
rockets in there where he was stood, one they were coming over their heads. He were in tanks and that, wasn't he?
I
And
think
that's
what you
what
have
John
to
Fury
say,
said. He wanted to go out there with Tyson, didn't they, to help him and all that nonsense, didn't they? They all of a sudden wanted to jump on that sort of story, didn't they? Well, they didn't, did they?
no, they didn't. They didn't at all, mate. I think what you have to say is, in terms of Usyk, is I don't think he's an all-time great. He's certainly a modern great, isn't he? And even if Fury stops him in 5 rounds, he's certainly a modern great purely just on his accomplishments across two weight divisions. And you have to take into account his amateur credentials. And he's continually fighting these bigger guys, isn't he? And so far, he's been victorious against them all. And I'll tell you something, whether Fury beats him or not, he'll give Fury a fight.
Yeah, yeah. So Dave Allen against Johnny Fisher, you don't want to see.
Johnny Fisher inside 2 rounds.
White Rhino against Nathan Gorman's the one you don't want to see, innit? Do you think they've had too many chances, him and Nathan, now?
Nice guys, brave men. But I just can't take people seriously who get into the ring looking like that, and I never could. you and I start the show, we talk about diet, weren't we, and talking about stuff like that, and it's just how I am. I'm 52 and I've trained all my life, and I still have a pride of appearance. I'm not vain, I'm definitely not vain, but I've trained all my life and I keep in shape. But I'm not vain at all. But I've trained all my life and I keep in shape, and I think there's a personal pride. But I'll tell you something: if I was a professional athlete, and I was getting paid good money, I'd be absolutely ripped. I was ripped. I was in shape as an amateur.
This is
Always
what
in shape.
frustrates us with David Allen and Nathan Gorman. We're frustrated by the casual attitude towards boxing, aren't we?
Did you see Nathan? I don't know if you saw Nathan Gorman's last fight on Channel 5.
Seen it, mate. I thought it were a gimmick fight because Calla and all them were involved. I thought it was to be a Misfits show.
Imagine you get
And then I realised it were him, Butterbean's brother.
so these three parts to a fighter's training largely. Heavyweights are slightly different. I've worked with a couple of heavyweights. It's very small, cruiserweight and heavyweight, but in a very small way. But generally, you've got the aerobic side, haven't you? You've got whether that aerobic side is gymnasium work, calisthenics, or whether it's road work. You've got kind of that aerobic side. Then you've got the technical side of it. And then you've got like, any kind of strength and nutrition side. You split it up like that. But are you telling me, and it sounds like I'm going in on those two, we use them as examples because you asked me what thought. Are you telling me that they're ticking all the boxes? You
No.
cannot get in a ring like that. You can't tell me you've been doing your road work when you're 2 stone overweight since your last fight. You can't tell me you're eating like an athlete when you're 2 stone overweight. You can't tell me you're doing the plank, you're doing your pull-ups, you're doing your dips, you're doing your abs, you're doing your mediball slams, you're doing whatever weight program you've been put on if you're doing one. Not that all fighters need to do them, by the way. You can't tell me you're doing regular sparring and you're living right when you get in a ring 2 stone overweight. You can't tell me that because you're lying. You're lying. So what you can't do when the referee picks the other guy's arm up at the end of that fight, like Nathan Gorman did, you can't look puzzled like that and have that expression what says, where did that go wrong? Come on. Fail to prepare to fail. It's bloody simple.
Do you think that's why Dave's trying to come back now and that and do it properly? But sometimes do you think he might have gone too far and he might be putting effort in, but his body might be breaking down on that and then it stops and that? Do you think that's what's happening?
No, I think Dave Allen, I think is you can see he's a likable guy. You can see that when he's interviewed, he's funny, right? But when you talk about Dave Allen, he comes across as being really immature, right? And I don't mean that in a bad way. We can all be immature, but Dave will like the credibility of being a fighter and people asking him when you're fighting next, when you're fighting next. I think you could beat him. I think you could beat him because we're all men. We all have egos and we all talk about that stuff. But the reality of actually doing it and converting that into performances and converting that into fitness is too much like hard work. So I think Dave is the kind of guy who would like a scrap and he likes money, but he doesn't like the 99% of the stuff that goes before the scrap and before the money, which is the hard work. And listen, right? Go on about this all night, and I will do. I'm prepared to do, right? What it boils down to is this. Your application in the gym and your approach to your career is evident in your performances, isn't it? You get fighters who only ever achieve area level belts, but they work their backside off and they've done everything. And those are the guy, the man in the mirror moment can say, I've ticked every box and that was my level. But the ones I've struggled with, and I've had them in the gym, by the way, you know this, I've had unbeaten kids, I've had talented national champions who have got hearts like peas who don't do the stuff that's required to be a fighter. You can't give them your time. You just can't give them your time. It's like they're kidding themselves, they're kidding everybody else. And one of the things I always used to say to a couple of fighters, I won't mention who they are, right, who didn't really put the work in the gym was, what about those family and friends who are on minimum wage, who have just got 3 tickets off you? And they're spending good money to come and see you perform. Do you think it's fair? Do you think if you said to them, by the way, I've not really trained for this fight, you think they'd have bought tickets? It's not right, mate. It's not right.
No, it isn't, mate. It's a
I
shame.
think we're winding down now, Russell, but I
Yeah.
like those guys as men, and I think the tough men, I don't treat them serious as professional athletes, basically.
All right, we're going to go to part 2 then, mate. I'll send you part 2.
Send me one over, okay, mate.
Mate.